From the Western Mass News studios in Springfield, this is Western Mass News Getting Answers with Dave Mattson.
Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Western Mass News Getting Answers. Each and every week, I'm joined by political and business leaders and other newsmakers to talk about the issues that impact you. My guest on this last week of 2021 is the Congressman from Massachusetts' 2nd District, Jim McGovern. He is the chairman of the powerful House Rules Committee, a senior member of the House Committee on Agriculture's Subcommittee on Nutrition and Oversight. He also serves as chairman of the Congressional Executive Commission on China and is the Democratic co-chair of the bipartisan Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, both of which monitor, investigate, and advocate on behalf of international human rights, the rule of law, and good governance. The 2nd Congressional District includes portions of Franklin, Hamden, Hampshire, Norfolk, and Worcester counties. Time permitting, the Congressman and I will talk about the new infrastructure law and its impact on Massachusetts, the Build Back Better legislation, now stalled and the future is in question, the investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol, and the role of the House Rules Committee, which he chairs, and his effort to ease food insecurity in the country. Congressman McGovern, good to see you.
Happy to be with you.
Nice to have you here in Springfield with us. Well, it has been kind of a wild weekend, to say the least. As far as what has happened, let's start with comments made on Fox News Sunday by Senator Joe Manchin about the $2 billion Build Back Better package. I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. So the question is now, what does that mean to the social safety net? Is this the fatal blow to its passage?
Well, it's frustrating to hear Senator Manchin utter those words. And, you know, I've been in politics a long time, and, you know, I don't know of anybody who requires as much attention or craves as much attention as Joe Manchin, maybe with the possible exception of Donald Trump. Maybe they didn't get enough love in their childhood. I don't know. But the bottom line is, you know, people need to put their egos aside and focus on helping the American people. I mean, if Manchin gets his way and nothing happens, the child tax credit ends this month. So explain to all the people in this country, close to 80,000 people in my district are receiving the child tax credit. That's helping to pay for gas in the car, food on the table, helping to pay their rent. Explain to them why you want to discontinue that. Explain why you're not interested in lowering the cost of prescription drugs or capping the cost of drugs like insulin. Or explain why you don't give a damn about the climate crisis, whatever. So we don't know whether this is political posturing, whether or not there'll be a continuation of give and take. I hope that this is not the end. Look, you don't have to agree on everything to agree on something. We're going to have to try to find that something we agree on and move it forward. But there's a lot that we cannot just leave by the wayside. We have to get some stuff done on this.
Biden administration is saying that that Manchin really broke a pledge to keep hammering out a deal. That this, you and I were talking before we started taping, this came right out of left field.
Yeah. Look, in politics, your word is everything. Doesn't matter what your political party may be. And Senator Manchin has given his word over and over and over again that he was committed to getting a deal done. So that he's walking away from the table. You know, I'll be honest with you, as we proceed, I'm going to need more than Joe Manchin's word to move forward on things, because quite frankly, I'm not sure I'd trust him to tell me the correct time at this particular moment. I mean, the idea that out of the blue, after meeting with President Biden, he goes on Fox News and makes this announcement, and by the way, wouldn't even take President Biden's call in advance. Something's going on here. But at the end of the day, look, this is about people. It's not about egos. It's not about, you know, somebody's political ambition. This is about people who, quite frankly, need help putting food on the table, who need help to pay for daycare for their children. Sure. This is about lowering prescription drugs. It's about capping the cost of insulin. It's about dealing with the climate crisis. All these things are incredibly important. By the way, they're incredibly popular all throughout the country, including in West Virginia. So let's hope we can figure out a way forward here, but it's just frustrating to have to deal with Joe Manchin.
I think the Biden administration had already said, look, this is probably not going to get done in 2021. You think it'll be the first thing on the agenda in 2022?
Well, we're going to have to refocus, you know, after the first of the year to figure out what's salvageable and what we can get done. And by the way, we also have to focus on getting a voting rights bill passed as well, because if people's right to vote is suppressed, that also impacts what we're able to get done in Washington.
These two pieces of legislation, also including the infrastructure legislation, which did pass, we'll talk about that in a minute, but how much of the other Biden administration agenda is all of this holding up?
Well, first of all, despite all the drama and the theatrics, Joe Biden's got an awful lot done. I mean, the American Rescue Package got passed, and here in Massachusetts, state legislators and the governor are earmarking billions and billions of dollars in federal assistance to help with projects, large and small, all throughout the state. Helping everything from our food banks to helping small businesses, to help you name it. It's going on right now. And then the infrastructure bill was passed, which is a huge deal. We haven't had an infrastructure bill in years and years and years. So there's a lot of things. Federal judges are being approved at a record number. All that is good. So we focus on the drama, but this president has already been successful in getting a lot done. But we need to get this Build Back Better agenda moved over the finish line in early next year.
Let's talk about the infrastructure legislation. What's the impact of this $1 trillion package on Massachusetts as a whole, and of course Western Mass?
It's a big deal. I mean, Massachusetts, we're an old state. We have bridges that are older than most of the other states in the country. They're in disrepair. We have water and sewer systems that are, falling apart, that are way outdated. And we don't have the ability at the state and local level to be able to fix all of this. This federal infrastructure bill pours like over $12 billion, billion with a B, into Massachusetts. Congressman Neal and I have been working on East-West rail. I mean, and there's a provision in there that I helped get in there that provides funding to help move that project along. So this is a big deal, not only with our infrastructure, it's a public safety bill, it's also a jobs bill.
One of the things everybody could agree with, finally.
Well, finally, but let's be honest, it took President Biden and a Democratic Congress to do it. Donald Trump talked about an infrastructure bill, but we got an infrastructure week, an infrastructure month, and a bunch of infrastructure press releases, but no infrastructure money. This is real money coming to this state and other states all throughout the country, and it's going to make a big deal.
I'm sure you saw this yesterday. There was a piece in the New York Times that the Globe reran too, calling 2021 a horrible year for Congress thanks to Republicans, with the help from a few Democratic holdouts succeeding in blocking most of the president's agenda, including the Build Back Better legislation, the voting rights push, overhauling immigration laws, renewable energy, and strengthening gun laws. What's your reaction to that?
Well, again, we've gotten more done than people, I think, appreciate. But yeah, I'm frustrated. We can't get a voting rights bill passed through the Senate. I'm frustrated we can't deal with the issue of gun violence in this country and put reasonable restrictions on guns, especially assault weapons, weapons of war. And I'm really frustrated with the tone of some of my colleagues on the Republican side who seem to embrace a racism and a bigotry that has no place in any system of government in the world, never mind in the United States Congress. So that is frustrating. But look, we have to keep our eye on the ball. We got to remain focused and committed, and we've got to continue to move legislation to help the American people, and that's what I'm committed to.
With 2022 being an election year, does it give Congress really a shorter window, a smaller window to get this done?
I mean, that's the conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says that you can't get things done. I mean, we're going to be in a session. So let's find our common ground and get things done. There's a lot that needs to be accomplished. And my view is that good policy is good politics. Mm-hmm. You keep your campaign promises. You deliver for the American people. You help provide ladders of opportunity for people to succeed in this economy, deal with the issue of inflation, which is a big problem right now, help create more jobs, deal with big issues like the climate crisis. We can, I think if we do that, the American people will reward us and those who support us at the polls, next November.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to touch on COVID and the uptick in the virus itself. Also talk about the investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol and the role of the House Rules Committee, which he chairs in that investigation. Welcome back to Western Mass News, Getting Answers. My guest is 2nd District Congressman Jim McGovern. Congressman, there are, of course, renewed fears about the health of the country and the economy because of the surge in COVID-19 cases and the Omicron variant. How concerned are you about its potential impact?
Yeah, well, we're all concerned. This pandemic has wreaked havoc on our economy. It has exposed the economic disparities that exist in this country. They've always existed in this country, but it's also showed some of the challenges we have with our supply chain. So, yeah, no, it has been a big deal. But I give this president and his team a lot of credit in helping get more and more people vaccinated, spreading science, the word of science, rather than fiction, like his predecessor was doing. And look, we all have to follow the science. Get vaccinated, take proper precautions, wear masks when you're in crowded rooms. I mean, listen to what the doctors and the experts say. If we do that, we can manage this. And I think that's what we're entering a phase now. We're going to have to manage this.
You are chairman of the House Rules Committee. What's been the committee's role in the process itself to charge former White House Chief of Staff with contempt of Congress?
Well, it's my committee, the Rules Committee, that has to bring those procedures to the House floor. And so I don't take any pleasure in having to hold former colleagues or anybody to account. I mean, I wish everybody would follow the laws and the rules, but that's not been the case. And with regard to what happened on January 6th, I mean, I was the last person on the House floor. I walked off. I was presiding over the proceedings on that day, so I came face to face with this angry group of rioters who were, maybe 15 feet from where I was standing as they were smashing the glass door to try to get at me and my colleagues. And so I'll never forget that day, but that was an attack not only on the Capitol building, this kind of citadel of democracy, it was an attack on our democracy. These people tried to stage a coup. They tried to undermine a legitimate, free and fair election in this country. They tried to basically null and void the voice of the American people. And I was a history major in college, and one of the things I've observed is the fact that if you look at, countries that have been subject to coups, usually the first time around doesn't work, second time or third time it does. If we don't expose the truth about what happened on that day and hold those responsible accountable, this will happen again. And we may not be so lucky the next time. We came very close to losing our democracy. And so the work of this January 6th committee is so essential, and we are going to do what we can to make sure they have the power to subpoena witnesses.
It sounds like Mark Meadows and the Steve Bannons that they're trying to, let's hold this up in court. And the longer we hold this up in court, the less will be done in Congress in the investigation. So
if that's the plan, and I think that's what they're hoping, then we need to look at other mechanisms within our rules to try to expedite the process. Maybe we look at inherent contempt laws that we can put into place to be able to actually impose direct fines on some of these individuals, or even worse, whatever. But the bottom line is, this is about our democracy. I don't care where your politics may be. Nobody should be indifferent to what happened that day. And it really bothers me that I have some colleagues that try to diminish or explain away what happened on January 6th, or to say those who attacked our Capitol Police. By the way, 140 Capitol Police officers were injured that day, that somehow the people who did that were heroes. Give me a break. I mean, how low do they have to sink? So we are going to do everything we can to get the truth out and to hold those responsible accountable, and I'm committed to that.
Hard to believe it's almost been a year. As you look back on that day, does it still seem as surreal as it was when it was happening?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I still have a tough time believing that people attacked and invaded the United States Capitol, that people, attacked the people who tried to hunt down and as we now know, some of them wanted to kill those of us who worked there. That they would show such disrespect for our Capitol Police. People died. And as I said, 140 Capitol Police officers were injured. I think we're just lucky that more people weren't there that day, because the injuries and maybe even the death toll would be significantly higher. But what they did was disgusting. Again, I saw these people face to face, and if you asked me to define what evil looks like, I would tell you it was what I saw in the eyes of those people trying to smash the glass door to get at us as we were walking off the House floor. I'll never forget it.
You do believe that if they had gotten their hands on Speaker Pelosi or any other congressmen or senators, I remember how they whisked Mitt Romney out of there too, they would have harmed them? I
do. I really do. I mean, look what they did to, I mean, you've seen the footage of how they beat up the Capitol police officers. And my Republican colleagues who say that, they respect the role of our police officers, defend what these rioters did. And so, I mean, look, I have a tough time dealing with anybody who's in denial about what happened on January 6th. Right. There's lots of conspiracy theories out there. I've had people say to me, it never happened, and I would respond to them, I was there, and they still insist it didn't happen. I'm like, I was there. What the hell are you talking about, right? But this was an attack, not just on the Capitol, not just on members of Congress. This was an attack on our democracy. And we cannot take our system of government for granted, because we can lose it. And that's what January 6th was about. They tried to stage a coup, an insurrection, to overturn a legitimate election. And they'll do it again if they have to.
It seems like it is. I mean, the fact is the divide between Republicans and Democrats is wider now than ever before. Sometimes it seems like the American people are in the middle of this political fight. Is that a fair observation?
Look, we are, I mean, our politics has become polarized, in large part because of some of the garbage that gets pumped out there on social media, and because of the former occupant of the White House, who spent all of his energy while he was president trying to divide the country. And in the as he's left, he's still trying to throw gasoline on the fire, promoting conspiracy theories, just lies and lies and lies. And look, I'm a Democrat. I'm a liberal Democrat. I'm proud of that. I have a lot of disagreements with the Republican Party on a lot of things, but I also respect the importance of having a Republican Party. And the Republican Party, that I have always known and respected is gone. It is no longer a party of conservatism or of fiscal responsibility. It is the party of Donald Trump. It is the party of conspiracy theories. It is the party who defends insurrection. And you're seeing that even at the state and local level. The kind of Republicans that are taking over the Republican committees and state committee here, I mean, are not conservatives. I mean, they're up to the lunatic right-wing fringe. And I will tell you, if I were, if I were Republican, I would want to reclaim my old Republican Party back. And so we'll see what happens. I think if in the midterm elections Republicans make gains, that's bad for conservatism. That's bad for the Republican Party of Charlie Baker or Bill Weld or Ed Brooke. I mean, but it is a win for the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Paul Gosars and the Lauren Boeberts and the Donald Trumps and Steve Bannons of the world. And I hope that thoughtful Republicans understand that by denying Republicans victories in the next election is a way for them to save their party.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Congressman and I will talk about his efforts at home and across the country to deal with food insecurity. Welcome back to Western Mass News Getting Answers. My guest this week is Massachusetts 2nd District Congressman Jim McGovern. Congressman, you've been pushing the Biden administration to convene a White House conference on food, nutrition, hunger, and health. Let's talk about food insecurity and some of the solutions that you'd like to see.
Yeah, well, hunger is a problem in this country. Even before the pandemic, something like 38 million people were hungry. I mean, we're the richest country in the history of the world. We all should be ashamed of that fact. I walk 43 miles along with my friend Monty Belmonte and Andrew Morehouse from the Food Bank Western Massachusetts every year to raise money for the food bank here and to raise awareness about the issue because it's a real problem. And in rural areas, it's particularly a challenging problem. But look, there are things we can do. Some of them are small, some of them are big. I mean, that's what we talked earlier about the child tax credit. The child tax credit that we put into place has already lowered child poverty by 30%. I mean, that's important to maintain. That's why we need to find a way to continue that, because it's actually money in the pockets of families with children to be able to put food on the table. We need to make sure that SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is adequately funded and the benefit is real enough so that people can make, can be able to put food on the table for the entire month. There are other things we need to do. We have hunger on college campuses. We have to make sure that all of our kids have access to good, nutritious meals in schools. I can go on and on and on. But I always remind people that we not only do we have a moral obligation to end hunger, but the status quo is expensive. Children who are hungry don't learn in school. Senior citizens who have to decide, who take their medicine on an empty stomach when it says take it with a meal, end up in emergency rooms. People who don't have access to nutritious food end up with diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. I go on and on and on. We are paying a lot of money for the existence of hunger in this country. So I want the White House to do this conference, pull everybody together, government, private sector, nonprofit, everybody, our medical systems, our educational systems, get everybody in a room together. Let's figure this out and let's commit to ending hunger once and for all. The last time we did a conference similar to this was 52 years ago. And 52 years ago was an imperfect conference, but it produced the WIC program, the Women's Infants and Children program, which has been an enormous success. And it led to a whole bunch of other improvements. Unfortunately, in the 1980s and 90s and after, we've backslided, but it's really important we get this done.
You represent a lot of small communities in the western part of the state, too. And I think when people think of hunger, they think, well, it's affecting the bigger cities. That's not the case. I mean, these smaller communities are impacted in a big way, too.
Absolutely. And in these rural areas, in these small communities, it's tougher to get, people the help that they need. In urban areas, usually it's easy to be able to transport food to people, wherever they may be. But when you're spread out, it's much more difficult. So transportation becomes an issue. We don't have grocery stores in some of these smaller towns. It makes it more difficult for people to have the ability to be able to purchase good, nutritious food. And again, when we talk about hunger and security, we also need to talk about nutrition and security, because they go hand in hand. We want to make sure that we're, if we solve the hunger problem, we're not creating another one. And look, we in Western Massachusetts have some of the most incredible farms in the world, I think. We need to better connect with our local farmers, because they need to be part of this agenda to end hunger. In our SNAP program, we have this double bucks program where if you use your SNAP dollars at a farmer's market, you can get, double, the products for the price because it's a state, federal program. It's been enormously helpful to those on SNAP. It's been also really helpful to our farmers. So I can't say enough nice things about our farmers.
Well, talking to, this is a need, not an entitlement.
Right, it's a need. I mean, look, and by the way, I've had people say, well, people just need to get a job. The majority of people who can work, who are on SNAP right now, they work. They work. They earn so little, they still qualify for the benefit. We need to find ways to make work pay, and we need to commit ourselves to ending hunger now.
All right. Congressman McGovern, I can't thank you enough.
It's great to be with you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, too. The happiest of New Year's, and let's hope for good things in 2022. Again, my thanks to Congressman Jim McGovern for taking the time from a very busy schedule to be with us over the holiday season. I'm Dave Manchin. Have a happy and safe New Year. I hope you'll join us next week when my guest on Western Mass News Getting Answers is the Holyoke Mayor, Joshua Garcia.